He thought it would be a harmless match, just a quick spar in the gym, a little friendly competition between a celebrated black belt and the janitor who mopped the floors. But beneath the fluorescent lights, the air was heavy with something more than sweat. The smirk on the fighter's face, the quiet determination in the janitor's eyes. No one knew this would be the day the balance of respect shifted forever. By the time it was over, the entire gym stood frozen. How did a simple challenge turn into a lesson they would never forget?
Marcus Johnson was the kind of man most people overlooked. By day, he scrubbed sweat from gym floors, polished mirrors, and made sure the equipment gleamed. He was quiet, reliable, the first to arrive, the last to leave. The black belt students passed him in the halls, some nodding politely, others barely noticing he was there. What they didn't know was that Marcus carried a history, one filled with discipline, resilience, and battles far tougher than anything inside those walls. But in this gym, he was just the janitor. That morning had been like any other, until a challenge was thrown his way, one that would expose far more than just fighting skills.
The gym was buzzing that afternoon. A regional karate champion had stopped by to visit, and whispers of his skill rippled through the hallways. He was young, confident, and known for his ruthless precision in the ring. When his eyes landed on Marcus mopping near the sparring mats, a smirk spread across his face. "Hey, janitor," he called out, his voice loud enough for the whole room to hear. "How about a quick match? For fun?" The words dripped with mockery. Marcus paused, meeting his gaze. Around them, a few students chuckled, some shaking their heads, already sensing the imbalance. A black belt against a man in work boots and a faded hoodie. It wasn't a fair fight. But it wasn't just skill they doubted. It was the unspoken assumption that Marcus, a black man doing janitorial work, couldn't possibly belong on the mats in any real way. Marcus said nothing, but inside, the challenge wasn't about pride, it was about something deeper. Years earlier, he'd trained under a mentor who taught him that martial arts was more about discipline and respect than belts or titles. He'd left competition behind, tired of the politics and prejudice that often tainted the sport. Still, the fire inside him never died. The champion tossed him some gloves, the leather landing at his feet. "Come on," he said, grinning, "unless you're scared." A hush fell over the gym. Even those who didn't agree with the taunt were curious. Marcus slowly placed the mop against the wall, his movements deliberate, as if every second was a statement. The moment he stepped onto the mat, the energy shifted. Some students exchanged looks, expecting an easy spectacle, something they could laugh about later. Others leaned forward, sensing something brewing under the surface. The referee called them to the center. The champion's stance was wide, confident, almost lazy in its certainty. Marcus, calm and collected, stood like a man who'd been here before. "Ready?" the referee asked. The champion lunged first, fast, aggressive, testing the waters. Marcus sidestepped effortlessly, the movement so smooth it almost looked casual. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Another strike came, sharper this time. Marcus blocked, his face unreadable. He wasn't just defending, he was studying. And then, the moment everyone had been waiting for, Marcus moved. A lightning-quick counter forced the champion to stumble back, surprise flashing across his face. The smirk was gone, but the real fight was only beginning.
The champion's attacks came harder now. Sharp jabs, sweeping kicks, each one fueled by a rising frustration. Marcus met them with precision, deflecting blows as if he could read them before they landed. Every block, every sidestep chipped away at the narrative the crowd had walked in believing. The room grew quieter, breaths held between strikes. The champion's face flushed red, his movements less controlled, more desperate. He wasn't just fighting to win anymore. He was fighting to save face. And for him, losing to the janitor wasn't an option. Then it happened. A vicious roundhouse kick, aimed high, came within inches of Marcus's head. He ducked low, pivoted, and with a single clean strike to the midsection sent the champion crashing to the mat. The sound of his fall echoed in the gym. Gasps erupted. The referee froze for a split second, as if unsure whether to call it. The champion clutched his side, eyes wide, not just in pain, but in disbelief. Marcus stood over him, breathing steady, not a trace of arrogance in his posture. But in that silence, the weight of what had just happened was heavy. This wasn't just a fight. It was a dismantling of an assumption, a breaking of an unspoken rule that some still clung to. The respect, skill, and worth could be judged by skin color or job title. From the corner of the room, someone muttered, "That wasn't supposed to happen." Others avoided eye contact altogether. The referee finally raised Marcus's hand. A few clapped, hesitant at first, then louder. But there were those who turned away, their pride wounded, their prejudice exposed. And as Marcus stepped off the mat, he knew this victory was more than points on a scoreboard. It was a crack in a wall that had been standing for too long. Marcus didn't celebrate. He simply picked up the mop he had left leaning against the wall and went back to work. The chatter in the gym was different now. Quieter, more measured. Some whispered about his skill, others about the look on the champion's face. But underneath it all was a shift, subtle, yet undeniable. For years, Marcus had been invisible here, seen only for the tasks he performed, never for the man he was. That day, the mask of indifference was torn away. His victory wasn't about humiliating an opponent. It was about forcing people to confront the truth they didn't want to see. In a single match, the narrative had changed. The janitor was now the man who had outclassed a decorated fighter. But for Marcus, the fight had never been about belts or glory. It was about dignity, about proving, if only for a moment, that worth isn't determined by a title, a paycheck, or the color of your skin. And yet, he knew this wouldn't be the last time he'd face that unspoken judgment. Racism doesn't crumble in a single moment. It cracks, slowly, under the weight of truth. His strike had been one blow against a much larger wall. As the day wound down, Marcus left the gym quietly, stepping into the cool evening air. The mop in his hand was just a tool again. But now, it was also a reminder that strength doesn't always roar, and change often begins in silence. So the question remains, how many more quiet victories will it take before respect is given without being fought for?